And we're live here in Nourish, Heal, and Thrive. We have another exciting interview. I have Dr. Marcus Robinson here, and we're going to learn all about what he does and the cool things he's doing. And I'm so excited to get to know him and share his gifts. So, Dr. Marcus, thank you for being here.
Derek, thank you for having me, and I just love the way you've framed this opportunity to nourish and to heal and to thrive. Thanks.
Yeah, that's what we all want to do, right? We want to feel nourished and we want to heal and we just want to thrive in life.
Yes, yes, that's precisely what my work is about, and that's why I call it integrative wellness, because I'm interested in the whole aspect of the human being well, and I'm not just naturopathic or holistic or spiritual or scientific or medicine orientated. I am a whole and complete 360 view of what it means to be human and what it means to be alive and what it means to be well. And those are super, super important points to me. What is a human being and what is life? And then when you get to that, you have to ask the question about humans and life, about aging and what is aging and then how do you slow that down and how do you really reverse some of that biologically so you feel great all the way into your sunset. That's what I'm
Wow. That's beautiful. I really want to hear all about that. But first, how did you get into all this?
Wow, I tell you, I come from a family of healers, and non-traditional healers, as it were. I grew up in the Jim Crow South in the United States of America, and back when I was growing up, there were places I couldn't go and even walk in the door, let alone that. So the kind of healers that my folks were about, they were spiritual healers. They were folks that were rooted in their faith tradition, rooted in the kind of the traditions of the people, the kind of ancestry that would have us uh, gather around fresh food, hard work, connection as people, being bonded as people, and then really doing those basic things to make sure that we are living our best lives, doing our best work, and taking care of ourselves in the best way possible. So it came out of my ancestry, and then about the time I came of age, I thought I was going to go to medical school, that kind of thing. I remember when I applied for college, I sent five pre-med schools and five music schools because my head was in the music or into the medicine. And the music schools, I gave me full ride scholarships, and so I ended up going that route. And um, and it wasn't long before 10 years after completing that part of my life, I said, man, I'm got through my 20s. I'm still not doing the work I want to be doing, which is transforming the world, helping people grow and develop and become all they can be. And so I began to do that work and went back to school, got the doctorate degree, out of University of California's Institute for American Institute for Clinical Hypnotherapy, and and went there because it was one of those first opportunities for a non-traditional degree. I could describe exactly what I wanted to do in the ways I wanted to do it, and then we built a curricula that would allow me to explore consciousness and the origins of consciousness, explore language and how language shapes the experience of life, and then explore the substrates of living, of being alive, So it's one thing to say I got a body and I got a brain and a heart and guts and whatnot, and so sometimes that breaks down. But I wanted to know more about what is innately life and how does one cultivate and nourish that. And then I asked the question, if that's life, then what does it mean to be human? And then, so what is that human life about? And then how do you nourish that? And what I was after was was trying to figure out, how in the heck did a little kid like me, who was the grandson of sharecroppers, become, this, doctorate community leader, business leader, out of nowhere, come to someplace. In a time in the U.S. where that was not a familiar sight. That was quite novel at the time. So glad we're beyond those days, as it were.
Yeah, so how did that happen? How did you become the leader and the healer and all that you are
Well,
now?
I'd like to trace it all the way back to a dream I had as a child. I had I had this dream of this fellow that would come sit at the edge of my bed, and he would wear this brown tan suit with a white shirt with a white pocket square, and he had a little cigarette, and he'd sit at the top of the bed, and it seemed like he'd be talking with me about, about life and about, where things could go if you could, who you could be, these ideas kept coming to my head. And then one day, my mother, you know, chimed in one in the middle of the night and says, "Are you okay?" And I says, "Yes, I'm okay. I'm just talking with Uncle." She says, "Uncle who?" And I described him to her, and it was the image that I saw reminded her of an image of her mom's only brother who had passed away years before I was born. And she goes, "I can't believe you've been talking with Uncle Boyd." And so that must be something special about you. So that's the first idea I got. There's something special about me. And then when I completed my studies at the University of Miami's Frost School of Music, I just wanted to get out and just do the music thing. I went to California, and boy, from Florida, I didn't know a soul. I was dead broke, ended up homeless on the streets. And a mutual friend, guy who worked in a music store that would let me come and hang out in the music store during the day, get out of the heat, found out that I was homeless. He goes, "Man, you're such a good guy. I'm going to introduce you to one of my friends who needs a house sitter." And that guy who needed a house sitter was a bass player named Tony Newton. Now you wouldn't know Tony Newton per se, except you've heard him play on all the Jackson 5 stuff, all the Dinah Ross stuff, he was the big Motown bass player of that era. And so he let me house sit for him, and he was the first guy I knew to have a his own library. His house was a library. His three-bedroom apartment, he had a bedroom and a living room, and every room, floor to ceiling, was a bookshelf. And every book was a book on whatever you wanted to know about being human, about transformation, about spirituality, about metaphysics. About He goes, I says, "What are you doing up in here?" He goes, "I'm just studying the world. I'm trying to see where we come from." I go, "Well, I said, "This is what I've always wanted to do." And he turned to me and he says, "Yeah, I've been waiting for you.
Oh,
I've
wow, I
been
got
waiting for
chills.
you." And Tony Newton is still a lifelong friend of mine. That story goes all the way back to, I'm going to say, about this time of year, about summer of 1980, and he and I are still a lifelong friends and sojourners on this path. But he introduced me to Yogi Bhajan of Kundalini Yoga. He introduced me to Swami Muktananda. Muktananda's last trip before he ascended to the U.S. He introduced me Shakti Put, blessing, initiations, and then onward to I went on to do some very very close work with Werner Erhard of the kind of the Human Potential fame. He was one of the really big founders of the Human Potential movement, and he and I did some great work together over the years, and I literally. Helped him develop a thing called the Breakthrough Foundation, and we did work really with high-risk youth. And those high-risk youth programs, we would take them out for 10 days. We get the roughest of the rough. We take you out for 10 days with some course leaders and some support people and a lot of volunteers, and we would, shrink some heads. We'd crack some skulls, which would allow them to really examine themselves, like, who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? What am I made of? And then how do I get myself out of the predicament that I found myself in, which is, in jail or, in trouble with the law at school or what have you. And we'd have them go through a process that allow them to fully re-examine their lives and then take on themselves like a project. Like, who I am is someone worthy of my investment. And then they get describe the four corners of that investment and like a vision for themselves and get themselves organized around making that work. And I had to tell you that thousands of lives were saved lots of marriages were created, lots of families were seeded, lots of people, doing really great things with their lives as a result of having, you know, come through that door. And it just one thing led to the next, one thing led to the next. The next thing I know, I'm working with their parents, going, "Hey, what's going on, mom and dad?" Kids don't have trouble all by themselves, you know.
Right.
It's a mom and dad neighborhood thing. And so we started working on neighborhood development and supporting people at work. And then that led me to organizational development where, mom and dad work for the corporation. They either work in the line or supervisors or middle managers or what have you, struggling, trying to live. And so I would work with the corporations to say, hey, look, why don't we do programming that could help your people be happier, healthier, and bond to you more as an employer. So now you got more loyal employees, and that all came up around the so-called employee assistance programming movements of the '80s, and I caught that ride right through into the turn of the century, and then folks like Wayne Dyer and Shakti Gawain and other leaders in the human potential movement, Dennis Waitley, Brian Tracy, they all became, colleagues of mine and took me out on the road with them to, do conference education stuff with them, workshops and whatnot. And I like to say the rest is history. The rest is just great projects that have been done in the world.
Wow, you've had some amazing experiences. That
Yeah,
sounds,
thank you, thank you, thank you.
yeah, that sounds great. So what are you doing now?
Well, right now, I'm full circle again, right? So I started working on myself, and then my own personal transformation. Then I became interested in the transformation of young people who were in similar kinds of troubled situations like I grew up in, and then I got to work with organizations, and then back to communities. Now I'm on back to self and individuals, and what I'm interested in is in the proposition of optimal health of what does it mean for a human to be able to nourish themselves, to heal what ails them, so that they can thrive in the ways in which we were thrive when we were young people. When we were kids, they'd send us outdoors to play, and we'd be happy to get outside barefoot, have a great time, eat all the fruit growing off the tree and everything. Just natural, good living. And I'm trying to get people and myself back to that place where we're thriving with joy and with laughter, and that our bodies actually are fulfilled, and that they get the nourishment they need, that we get the sunlight and all that goes with red light therapy and the all that kind of stuff, and we get the electromagnetic stuff that the earth is made of, that gives us life, and we get the right nutrients. You can actually return to the garden of your own physical creation, which is to say, your biological age need not be chronological. In that, I'll tell you today, pushing 70, that on the protocols that I'm on right now and have been working towards for the last 10 years, I feel like I'm in my 30s again, only better.
Only better. I love that. You feel like
Yeah,
you're in your 30s, only better. That's a
only
great way to
better.
set it. So if
And
I
it's
want to go
Go
back
ahead.
to my 30s, right? I just turned 50. If I want to go feel like I'm 30 again, well, what's my step? What do I do?
Well, Derek, I would say this to you. So if you hit 50 and it looks like that 40s bump that happens to everybody didn't hit you too hard, otherwise you'd be telling me, you would have told me about it, right? Because what happens is that you grow up in your when you're first you're conceived, and then you're this one cell that explodes with light and energy, and then it just starts replicating, and then you become this child, and you get raised up, and all the way until about your 20s, maybe into your early 30s, you're in a life growing. Your life is improving and expanding over time, and then it matures at its peak, and then if you don't do the things that continuously allow your body to keep that upward trajectory, you head down the valley, and then you get on what I call the you start the fitness terrain. So So you reach a certain level in your 30s, and then life happens, right? And you got to get up that hill, and then you come back down the hill. Hopefully, you come back to the same place you left. You go out, do some hard work, you come back and you recover. What happens, but you go up and do some hard work, you hit your 40s, and then you have that thing. Well, some people need glasses. Some folks have andropause, where our hormones start to change. Women have menopause. Their hormones start to change, and you go back down, and then you don't end up at the same place you left. You get a little bit lower, get a new set point. Just a little lower. We call that aging. But it's not so bad because you can still climb the hill again, right? The question is, can you climb the hill and come back to the level you're at, or can you come back to a higher level? And that's the question you're asking. Well, how do I come back to a higher level of awareness? And what is that? When you say I feel energetic and vitality, one way to say that, from a biological standpoint, is to say my NAD levels are at peak. Because what happens when you hit about 34 or so, your NAD levels start to drop about 1% a year. And that's why you get a little less energy over a lifetime. You got less energy at 50 than you did when you were at 30. But now I would also say you have less NAD at 50 than you did at 30, which is a nutrient that is present throughout your body, but it keeps declining over time. If you replace it, get topped off, your level of energy can rise to that level, because the level of NAD correlates to the level of ATP potential your body can do. So if you were at 100% at 34 and you're dropping that 1% a year, you're about 85% at 50.
Hmm.
And 85% of great is still pretty good, which is probably the way you feel, but it's still not your 100%. I would say pay attention to your NAD plus levels, and you can do that with food, nutrition, or supplementation to get you there. So NAD will get you there. And then I would also suggest, because we're men, and it's true for women, but our testosterone levels are dropping. When we were, in our 20s, it's somewhere between 900 and 1,200 units. If we call it, give that number a measure for free testosterone. By the time most people hit their 50s, for men, it's somewhere between 400 and 600. So, and what is testosterone? It's not muscle brown stuff. It's your motivation stuff. It's the stuff that drives your dopamine and your serotonins to feel great and feel motivated to go do stuff. So if your energy's low because of NAD plus, and your testosterone's low, because which means your motivation for action is lower, well, that's when we call things slowing down and mellowing out. And you can slow down and mellow out, but not because you have to.
Right.
Because it's possible to be a fully actualized physical human being with all the NAD and testosterone and all the other good things that you need to thrive, and still be detached, settled, peaceful, and engaged. And that's kind of the status that I call that hyper wellness. And when you can get to a hyper wellness state where your energy's up, your hormonal states are up, and then I'm going to call it your body electrics, your electromagnetics are up, you are virtually impervious to the normal wear and tear of being alive. The normal wear and tear of being alive. It's like, maybe if I could put a final point on this. Most people think of themselves like their body as a magnificent machine. Well, it's not a machine, because if any machine you use as much as you use your body will be broken down, and it's the only this is a thing that the more you use it, the better it gets. And the
Yeah.
machine is, the more you use it, the worse it gets. And machine is, the less you use it. Like if you don't drive your car, you got a 10-year-old car that's only got 6,000 miles on it. You say that's a brand new car.
Right.
Right now, but if you use your body as little as you did that car, you would be atrophying and dying. It's exactly the other way around. You want to thrive? Now here's one for you. I giggle now. You will in a moment when I say it. It's factual truth that men and women who experience orgasms 10 to 12 times a month live 12 years longer than men and women who only experience it once or twice a month.
Wow. Wow.
See?
That's
now
a
you see
wow.
why, now you see why I'm
Oh,
giggling, right? So
yeah.
get busy. Why is that? I say that there's that's part of the species imperative. You know, one way to think about the reason why you and I are alive, one of our roles in the world is to be fruitful and multiply, says the Bible, but says Darwin, which is is the preservation of the species, is to replicate, and that's very very true. There's a instinct for all organisms, living organisms, to replicate because we are not just replicating like making babies. That baby, if you and I made one, let's just say we were playing that one. If,
Okay. I'll
if
play along.
that baby, it has the life energy that came from its parents, and that those parents have the life energy that came from their parents and their parents. And if you go all the way back far enough, this is the same life energy from the first parents that is manifest in you and me here and now. This is a life that's been alive for 3.5 billion years on this planet. When you think about the transfer of life from one set of beings to the new being, this is the same life energy going forward. And this is the way the universe, says Marcus, this is the way the universe outthinks itself, outdoes itself, because in the universe, if you put this human body out in space unprotected by this earth, sun, and moon and a spacesuit, what would happen to it?
It'd be gone. It,
In a
it,
matter of minutes, it would be frozen to death.
yeah.
Because what's going on out there in the universe overall, except right here where we live, is entropy. Everything in the world falls apart and disintegrates. Everything in the world that's warm goes to cold, right? That's the way the universe works, except for living things like you and I. We are negentropic, negative entropy, in that life is the pursuit of producing more and more heat and energy in the face of entropy, right? And so when you and I get sick, Derek, it's because the negentropic property of, say, my heart, if I have a heart condition, it is now experiencing entropy at a different level than, say, my brain or my skin or my skeleton. Can you hear that? Because it's falling apart.
Mm.
Entropy. So now when we pay attention to the negentropic properties of our heart, well, then we can heal it in a way such that it's good as new. It returns to as good as new because that's what this thing was designed to do. Think about it. You've been in that body for 50 years. When was the last time it let you down? It just
Okay.
doesn't.
Yeah.
It is the most utterly trustworthy spirit being you could ever be connected to, and that's why you have one, and it's doing its job, and this job is to be the vessel of neg entropy, so that the consciousness that you are, the who you are, can be expressed through what you are in this planet, which is the only place anybody can verify with any kind of uh, evidence whatsoever where life actually does that, where the universe is in a neg-entropic dance with itself. So when I say anti-aging, I'm trying to get you and me to get to the place where we are at one with that negentropic energy that we are, that electromagnetism that we are, and there we are immortal. And in this body that we have is in a dynamic game of birth, growth, death, and rebirth over and over and over and over and over again by 100 trillion cells doing it like that on its own biological clocks like that. And all you got to do is be in touch with that so that you can give this body the nutrition it needs. You can keep it connected to the earth in the way it needs to be connected to the earth, where you can really embrace the celestial energies that come from the relationship between the earth, the moon, and the sun. And we take that light information, the sounds of life. You think you don't feel good, go to the woods and listen to the woods for a little while. Those sounds are healing frequencies, and they're there for you to heal. That if you want to you want to calm down, you want to calm your what do they say, want to calm my adrenal glands and deal with all of my high stress, go to the beach and be at one with the waves coming in, and they'll come in at about 10 to 12 waves per minute, which is about it's about your breathing pattern.
Wow.
You follow what I'm saying? 10,
Yeah.
sometimes 8, sometimes 13. And if you touch that water, well, especially if it's the ocean, that water it has an ion flow that has electrons flowing through it from the center of the earth. You need every one of those electrons. When you say, I feel excited, I feel energy, you said, I feel electrons. That's your life energy flowing right there. You take your body and evaporate all of the water from it
Yeah.
and leave only the minerals that are left, and you take the ocean and evaporate all of the water from it and leave the minerals that are left, you get the same set of minerals. You are that thing. You are the earth. And when the water inside of you is structured the way the water is structured in the ocean, well, then we call that healthy cell. That's healthy cytoplasm.
All right.
When you get sick, 100% of the reason why you get sick, your voltage goes down too low, your ATP production goes down too low, all right, and the water that's in your cells lose their structures. It just becomes H2O because in your body, that's not H2O in your body, that is H3O2, the way it's bonded up together to make a structured water. And it's the structured water that is the essence of your healthiness. And you get that from the electron flow from the earth, from the cycles of the sun and the light and sounds and the electromagnetism that comes from all of that. That gets every cell wall is a little battery that holds on to a little bit of that, and so that you could take the raw material of the earth, the dirt, call it food if you like, and you transform that into the nutrients required to turn to make use electron power and a few chemicals to make an explosion inside of your cell called ATP, which is that's your life that structures the water. And when those things are in alignment, you're in alignment. And so my wellness practice is about helping you get grounded to the earth, get the right nutrients, get what I call the 5 elements. There's 5 elements you need. If you had them in full supply, you experience optimal health, and the bugs that are in you, they won't bug you. When I say the bugs that are in you, it's like people say the germ theory. The germ theory. No, it's not a germ. The germs don't cause these diseases. Now trust me, bacterial overgrowth is a problem. But the fact that they overgrew, the question becomes, how did that happen? And it happens because the terrain of your body, your cellular, fitness, as it were, dropped to such a level as to allow those naturally occurring passengers, symbionts that are part of our whole experience, they overgrow because they don't they, because the terrain has changed. But and when your body has full electrics, full nutrition, full electromagnetism, full access to the water you need, and then these five elements, you don't get sick. You don't get sick from that. You may get exposed to something that overpowers your situation. There are certain exposures that you don't want to do. You don't want to be overexposed to light. You don't want to be overexposed to gamma rays. You don't want to be overexposed to toxins and all these kind of things. You just don't want to do that. That's not smart. I'm not saying you're Superman, but I'm saying that in your environment, unperturbed by the kind of the toxins that are generally that we've put in our way, you would basically be immortal. That's why Methuselah lived 900 years, and why we can't today has more to do with the way of living
Wow.
than life itself. Full stop. I
Wow.
said a lot. I didn't mean to sell it. I've been preaching. I stop. I'm
Marcus,
sorry.
I think I could listen to you all day though. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, see, so they to say we're a spiritual being having a human experience. I like to say we are a bioelectromagnetic being having a physical experience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We're a bioelectromagnetic being having a physical experience, and the physical experience is the superstition. We hold ourselves as physical because we're told that we've been entrained that way. We're even told that they don't even call it brain processing. They say you have a mind, like it comes from someplace else. No, that's brain processing. Now
Wow.
there's no mental health. There's only brain health. And I'm not saying that there are no bioelectrical, electromagnetic, or beyond the physical experience of the body. I'm not saying that. I'm only saying that this physical presence that we are only looks like it's physical. Because if you boil this down to just take one cell and say, what is the cell made of? About 100,000 atoms, 100 million atoms, 100 trillion atoms per cell. That's right. 100 trillion atoms. You take the one atom and you go, well, what's in it? You go, well, there's a nucleus and there's an electron. And if you say, well, where is the electron? The electron and the nucleus, are they together? No, they're separated. Well, how separate are they? Well, if you want to really understand how separate they are, think think of the largest football stadium you've ever seen or been to, and you put an orange on the 50-yard line. We'll call that the nucleus of the cell. And then you go up to the last seat at the farthest, highest point in the stadium, and you hold up a dime. And that's the electron. And that distance between the 50-yard line and there is the distance between the nucleus and the electron in every cell in your body. You basically, and if you weighed it, the the mass of an is nothing. It's almost infinitesimal. So an infinitesimally small thing stretched that far distance is the what you're made of. So if you were anything, you're not those things. You are the energy and information that those things represent. You are the energy and information of the universe that is cohering through your heartbeat, that torrent of water flowing through your body. That's holding this whole thing together. Because when your heart starts beating, what do we call that?
Like a heart, yeah, you're
We
dead,
call
right?
that dead, baby.
Yeah.
You're done. Because you need that torrent that keep to have the whole thing cohere. So these overlapping waves of energy and information at every vibrational pattern that you can think of. That's why all this, the Rife frequencies and the Solfege frequencies and the Schumann resonance, all this energy medicine stuff. That's why that stuff works.
Wow.
Because who you are is made of that. And when your body is decaying, it's because that electromagnetic thing, that conscious thing that you are, has left the party.
Wow.
Because it is the electromagnetic being that you are that coheres the physical. Otherwise, it's just like moon rocks and meteors. Essentially they're going to dissipate over time because they are not neg-entropic.
I
They
see.
are subjects of entropy. So that's my story. And so what am I really trying to say? It's possible for you and I to live, to thrive, to heal, and to nurture our bodies in such a way that we can experience optimal health. And when we can do that in community with one another, when you're thriving and I'm thriving and your kids are thriving and my kids are thriving, your family's growing and my family's growing, and the food around, we're doing all these things and we're trading amongst ourselves. We call that the good life.
Yeah.
And that's what we're after. That's heaven on earth, or better yet, let's transform.
Wow.
Let's transform this earth into a new heaven.
Nicely said, Marcus. We gotta kind of reel this in, but I really appreciate that. I really could listen to you all day, so I think we'll have to have you come back.
Please
Um,
do.
Before we wrap it up, is there anything you want to leave people with? Any
Yeah,
final
yeah.
words? And let us know how we can touch base with you if we want to learn more.
Great. So you see, my name is Dr. Marcus Robinson. So my website is drmarcusrobinson.com. So if you remember my name, just throw the .com after it and you're there. If you go Dr. Marcus Robinson in any with a search engine, you're gonna come up with me within 10 or 20 sightings. So it's pretty easy to find me that way. I'm on Facebook with you, of course, and I'm Dr. Marcus Robinson on Facebook. The thing I want you to know, for all of us, is that uh, 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 wellness is an act of self-care. Self-care is an act of self-love. When you pour love into yourself, your cup will overflow, and the children at your feet will drink. All right. And when your heart is full, you want to share it with others, and so your partners become the recipient of all of that love that you've generated and put into yourself. And then when that fills up, your level of generosity will expand to your neighborhood and community, and into the nation as a whole. And then when nations get together, we have a world that works for everyone, with no one left out. And that's really what I'm after.
Wow, amazing. So thank you so much for doing this, Marcus. We're gonna have you leave some of your links in the comments here of this post so people can find you a little quicker. And yeah, I really appreciate you doing this. And thank you everybody for watching. Make sure if you resonate with Dr. Marcus Robinson, make sure you check out his links that he's going to post and connect with him and you know, let's thrive, all thrive together.
Yes, let's heal, let us nurture, and let us thrive. Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Awesome. So thanks again, everyone. Uh, if you like what we're doing here in Nourishing on Thrive, make sure you comment, interview, and we'll spotlight you and you can share your gifts or you can share your struggles and we'll get you the support you need. And we really appreciate you, Marcus, and we'll sign off here. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time.